Well, hey YouTube. Today I'm going to be demoing the mjolner, which is a fjord fuzz. Fjord fuzz is a Svensk or Scandinavian company. I think it's just a guy. Anyway, I found this layout on the tagboard effects unverified section of their forum. Mjolner is, I'm guessing that's the name of Thor's hammer. And anything Swedish, that's interesting. I'm Swedish. I love Volvos. And what I read, the very few comments that were on this thing were very positive. So it's a silicon fuzz, uses 2N2222, which is my favorite transistor. 2 is my lucky number. And a pair of pink ultra bright 3mm LEDs for the clippers. I know that sounds specific, but I know from designing my own fuzz circuit that I could only really get it to do exactly what I wanted it to do using an orange ultra bright LED. So I went ahead and ordered a sack of 50 of the ultra bright LEDs. I put this thing together. I had also read that it sounds good using a germanium diode as the clipper. So I ran a pair of wires up and out of the circuit board where the clippers go. Attached that to a DP-DT switch that has 6 spots to solder on it. Put those wires in the middle, and on one end I put the pair of pink LEDs, each one facing an opposite way. On the other end I put a pair of 134 germanium diodes. These were old Radio Shack, is in a red package. They were transistors that maybe they were leaky and they had cut one of the legs off, and then it serves as a diode. So it was a very unique part. They're tin hat transistors, which is exactly what it sounds like. It looks like a little tin top hat. So when I finished, I was pleased with this fuzz. I used a 3-position switch for the modification. So when you set it to the middle, in essence, that's no clipping diode. And it's a little bit louder. See, the thing about using an LED, it's more open, it's less compression and less clipping. We don't want to confuse gain and clipping, because they are different, but they also occur simultaneously. So that's a trap. So in essence, when you do a mod like this, unless you do some fancy things and use a switch that has another set of components on, where you're able to also change the resistance of the output pot, because you can wire that in, as my friend Jimmy Photon turned me on to that idea. I've never done it. So the result is, okay, your LED is real open and it's real loud. What's even louder is the middle position of the switch is like 2-3 more dBs more hot. And then when you click it down to those germanium transistors, germanium diodes, they began their life cycle as transistors till they were amputated. Sounds familiar. Those are quiet. So it's, you could set this up as a foot switch, blah, 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 blah. Me, I tend to not sweat it so much and keep that in mind, but if you've got everything cranked up and you hit that switch, it's gonna, you know what I mean? Like if you set it on the quiet setting and then compensate for that in the master volume, and then mid-gig you go and hit that switch, it's gonna get so loud you could actually blow a speaker. So considering that, I would almost not recommend that you do this on a live pedal, or if you do, you don't use the mod. You just figure out, I'm just going to stick with one of these, one or the other. Now, what we have here is master volume. This pot over here is connected to the DC jack, so that affects the amount of current. And then this jack is bias. Now I find it is a flexible fuzz. I'm not going to be tweaking the heck out of it. Let's check out our clean tone. This is American Strat. The speaker comes out of a Fender Princeton amp. And I'm using just a Crate GLX 15 8-inch speaker practice amp that has an external speaker jack on it. And that crate has built-in digital effects. So I've got a little bit of reverb and a little slapback delay. So that's the two position. This is the bridge. Now I should mention I have a Boss bass chorus running here, and that's because this pedal is buffered. I like to have a buffer because it does affect the performance. Without the buffer, there's a little weird artifacts that can happen. There's more noise when you start really starving the pedal and choking it. And in a real world situation, this pedal, the way it would be on my board, it would be with a buffer in front of it. So there I have the tone rolled back and I had it on the hum canceling 4 position. Let's go ahead, I'm going to turn the master volume down. Actually, I'll bypass it. Switch this thing up. Let's switch it over to the other clippers. Hear how it octaves out. I noticed that if you fret second fret on the 4th string, oftentimes you can get that kind of octave effect. So let's go ahead and switch it to the middle position, which is no clipping diode. That's engaging the LEDs. All right, now for a quick comparison, I thought it might be interesting to power this down, and we're going to pop in a Devi Ever Hyperion fuzz, and that will give you, maybe if some of you are familiar with the Hyperion, get a little A-B comparison here. So there you go, that was the Hyperion. Stick with me, we're going to do a germanium. So, this one off. What do you want to hear? How about we do a oldie but a goodie. Let's see, how do I have this one being powered? Does this have an internal battery? Or is there... Yeah, there is an internal battery. This is a Maestro fuzz tone FZ1B. And how are we going to hook this up? We have this cable goes to the amp, which is here. And I would not be needing this. Oh, and you know what? You're not supposed to run this with a buffer in front of it. So why don't we get a true bypass pedal, and then that way we won't have that buffer. We'll have true how it's supposed to be. So here's a germanium. Actually, I think this is silicon, isn't it? Something's not right with this rig here. Let's do that woman tone. Almost reminiscent of a synth. But like a GR300. So there you go, there's a FZ1. Now how about we try, just for fun, turn that one down. Why don't we try a Spaceman Effects Sputnik 2 clone. One of these, not the clone, the actual unit, sold for $2,100 on Reverb not too long ago. And another one sold for, before that, sold for $1,800. I built a pair of these and I had a hell of a time getting the Millennium bypass to function properly on one of them. The other one fired up first time. That's like woman tone. I've got the tone rolled all the way back, and I'm on this like hum canceling 4th position. So now we're going to go down to the 1 position. So it's the bridge. I'm going to pop it up once we get that hum canceling. One more. I got a silicon fuzz that we can test here. Mind you, all of these, with the exception of the first germanium, this one doesn't mind being in front of a buffer. And I'll tell you what, this is a wonderful circuit. This is pretty much king fuzzy fuzzy. I really like this one. Now why don't we do a silicon. This is a silicon tone bender that has a secret. It's a Systech harmonic energizer, which is a fancy EQ or parametric EQ that Frank Zappa used to use. I'm not sure how I have this set, but we can do just the tone bender. Doesn't that sound just like the Spaceman? It's noisy. So yeah, this pedal is not the best chassis, and I'm guessing I probably didn't use a shielded wire for the input, so don't mind the noise. That's with that Systech harmonic energizer. Now I should mention that I'm really fond of that, it's called Mike Tester. Mike Tester is a guy in the DIY, do-it-yourself pedal building community, and I'm really fond of his silicon tone bender layout. I think it's just a wonderful circuit. People who collect and sell expensive germanium fuzzes will never come clean about the reality that some of these silicon fuzzes really rival the germanium cousins, and that when you consider that they're reverse polarity, so that they're a pain in the neck to power them, and that they're temperature sensitive, meaning as soon as it gets up past 75 degrees, your tone goes in the toilet, the silicon fuzz becomes quite a bit more attractive than the germanium. What you learn, if you're actually honest about this and you're not trying to sell or make money or hoard or fetishize or protect your investment, what you learn is that they stopped making fuzzes out of germanium for many good reasons, and that a properly designed, well-biased silicon fuzz does practically the same thing. Now, let me turn that. So that one that we're hearing now is really tweaky. I didn't really have that set quite right until the very end. This is one of my favorite silicon fuzzes. It does not have a name. Okay, so it's supposed to have the B, the bias at the middle. This is a kit sold by a Czechoslovakian guy. It's the $19 fuzz kit, and it comes with the chassis. I messaged him because I couldn't believe how much I liked the sound of this. He said he designed it with the cheapest parts available. That was his whole design goal with this. So what does that tell me? Well, it's not always what you think. It's not always what they say when it comes to guitar tone. Some of the stuff that really shines is not what you would think. It's not the super unbelievably expensive rare stuff that you need to go after in this game. People will do their best, especially if they own this stuff. If they own this stuff and someone asks a question, they'll come on and go, oh, never do that, never buy that one, it's garbage, the $180 one. You've got to buy the $499 one that I have. and then you find out, oh, well, they were accusing this guy of being dishonest because he put a silicon transistor in the circuit when the original was all germanium. And then it's like, well, when you look at what he actually did, yeah, he put a silicon in there in position 1, which if you play around with these circuits and you see that if it's a multi-stage fuzz and stage 2 is the one with the clipping, stage 1 is just like the first stage. It doesn't matter. It's the second stage that does all the work. So you could put an op amp in there, which is called Mike Tester's Buzz-alike. And that was when Burns Buzz Around, it's Robert Fripp's favorite fuzz. He does that woman tone idea, which is it's humbucker, you roll your tone back, you play on the neck humbucker. And it's kind of like a loo, like a horn, a trumpet. And it's a beautiful tone. And what do I got going on here? How come I got no sound? I've got it back. Unbelievable, I do a demo and I got... So in my experience, I built the Baldwin Burns Buzz Around with 3 germanium transistors, and then I built the one that uses the op amp for the first 2 stages and the only one germanium for the final stage, and they're identical. You can compare those 2 fuzzes and they're identical. There is no difference. If anything, the one that has the op amp is less noise. So when you're not playing, that shh, all that hiss, it's not there. And it's more stable. It's less temperature sensitive because there's one germanium, and I was talking about that temperature sensitive thing. That's a real unpleasant fact of life when you're talking about vintage fuzz boxes that utilize these germanium transistors. Now, that's not the same. I'm here saying, oh, germanium is garbage and it's all junk. I'm just saying that the way a lot of people present it and how much hate they have for silicon when you go into like the real fuzz forums, that's not really accurate, okay? A whole part of this is Emperor's New Clothes. It's all psychological because you have something super rare that everyone doesn't else have that makes you feel special. When I was a kid, I thought, am I ever going to get to play through germanium? And then the day came and it was a letdown. It really was a letdown. And then like, when I opened up the Maestro, I had played through it a bunch of times and I didn't really like it, but I knew what it did. I knew it had this thing that the other circuits didn't have. That was the first fuzz that I ever had that sounded like that. I got it from my stepdad who played in an old wedding band. And later on I found out it's not germanium. It's silicon, and it still has that thing, that trumpetish, weird kind of breakup on the attack and the release. It sounds like it's kind of broken, and that's why people love these things. And the discovery that, hey, your beloved germanium fuzz is silicon was really telling to me, because it is. They're not all germanium. This one that we're listening to now is a it's an MXR blue box with the octave turned off, and that's another fuzz it's a different sound. I wish I had better situation with this cable. It's like the one that we're not able to test today is this 8-knob fuzz. Do I dare test fate? I plugged it in earlier and I couldn't get anything out of it. The light comes on. Did it fix itself? Yeah, that one's going to have to go under the knife tonight. So we'll put that one here, and what do we got? Oh, how about a super fuzz? This is not a Marshall, it's a Univox super fuzz. And this is, if you like The Who, there was an album, The Who Live at Leeds. So sometimes they call that a Leeds fuzz. Electric Wizard uses this. Kind of a mid-scoop modification on this one. So that is some of my fuzz pedals. That's the ones that I have out here right now. I guess what I will do in closing, since we went through all those, I should mention I also built a FZ2, a Boss FZ2, which is a clone of this that uses op amps, and that's an excellent pedal. If you're interested, Behringer makes a fuzz, a 300 orange pedal that's like $30. They're kind of hard to get. They just reissued them. I'm not sure about that, if they're off the market now, like they sold them all out, or you only get a used one. But if you build these things, you can order a PCB from Pedal PCB, which is really my favorite place. And it doesn't use transistors. That's the thing. The super fuzz, you have to really, they kind of cascade upwards in gain to, if you're going to like really make it optimal. You have to start at like 600 or something 200 and work your way up to 700. Something with the gain on the numbers for all 5 or 6 transistors. It's a pain in the neck to do it and get a good one. Other people just throw, two M222s in there and call it a day. I tried a bunch of different things, and what I found was trying to match the numbers that were published on the internet that were measured off of an original Univox Super Fuzz that was the guy in Monster Magnet or one of those groups, Fu Manchu. That was what sounded best to my ear. And that, taking the advice of a guy, Lucifer's Trip is the name of the user, the fuzz builder. You'll find people in this racket of building effects that when they speak, you want to listen to them because they're not BSers. They tell the truth. You run into other people that will spout theory, or the only thing that's any good is what they have right now. You want to watch out for those people. But switching over to the diodes, the diodes seem to let a little bit more of the high end through. Oh boy, I shouldn't have done that. So in essence, I really do like this green pedal, which is the mjolner. The layout for this pedal is available on the tagboard effects, the unverified section. They have the mjolner. Mjolner, again, means Thor's hammer. It doesn't have umlauts over the O, like I think I said in one of the videos. I made a series of videos where I boxed this up on camera. So I'm still editing those. Probably when that series is completely edited and uploaded to the channel, I'll put this demo up. So it's going to be, if you want to sit through me building this thing, you can learn how I do it. I show one video which is just going through all the tools, a 10-minute video, and then throughout the process I tell kind of different things that I've learned from doing this for a while. We all work differently, we all use different tools. My way is not the right way, certainly not the right way. But I'm not a pro tech or expert. My life is a path, and I try to admit when I'm wrong and keep my mind open so I can learn new stuff, okay? But at the same time, I'm not a goof, you know? So I thank you very much for joining me. I like to try to remember to say good thoughts, good words, and good deeds whenever I do one of these things. Isn't this a cool looking pedal? The yellow LED. The chassis we got from Tata, which is an electronic supplier. You can go on their Facebook, and every once in a while they do a 15% off sale. So what it's good to do is put your wish list together and wait for that 15% off sale. You can order these. This is a 125B. This is my favorite size for a guitar pedal. It's kind of that way thick. And while this has a lot of weird artifacts to it with the cutting of the 9-volt and the I would like to try this at 18 volts. The bias knob, which you don't always have, it's kind of a tweaky thing, but I like that. And I really like how I have that attack in there, how it's super fuzzy and it sounds vintagey, and you can get it more vintagey with starving it and misbiasing it. So this is definitely, I've built a lot of fuzzes that I didn't box up because either they were noisy or they were the same as something else I already had. But I think going through the collection today, if it translates, you can hear they're all a little bit different. So I hope this was helpful. I was just excited because I hadn't run across a fuzz for a while that was just silicon and really that good. Although that $20 kit is excellent. All right, you guys, I'm going to cut you loose. Thanks for joining me. Stick around. If you haven't already subscribed, please like and subscribe. I could really use it. So, peace.